In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
We find Swoop soaring high in the skies above this now more familiar world. Its strange shapes and buildings, mountains and highways, its strange arching formations streaking through the skyline. Swoop circles again and again before finding the other Dinobots grouped together on a road below. Well, most of the other Dinobots. Snarl is again absent from the group, but surely he's just off-screen, engaged in some nearby antics. Still, it's a relief, and yet no surprise that, even on this dangerous world full of surprises, the Dinobots are totally fine.
Me, Swoop, no see nothing.
He points, indicating that they should continue on further. Grimlock haughtily and confidently tells the others what his incredible intuition and unequaled hunter's instincts tell him.
Me, Grimlock, positive, hot rod and cop close.
Slag, ever the naysayer who hates everyone and everything, calls Grimlock out on his boisterous claim, swearing as only a Dinobot can.
Me, Slag, say you full of beryllium baloney.
The trapdoor of mean-looking spikes opens up under his nose, causing him to step right into it and tumble over in surprise. Grimlock is completely unconcerned with the trap, even as Slag is on his side and struggles to get up.
Me, Grimlock, say you full of cesium salami.
Slag rights himself, completely unharmed by the spikes he just stepped right into, being more harmed by Grimlock's words than any pitfall. You get the idea that they've been encountering dangerous gambits and terrifying creatures during their whole journey through this world. But they're the freaking Dinobots. Especially in their dino modes, there's virtually nothing that can hurt them. Nothing tougher than they are. As individuals, they're invincible. As a group, they're indomitable. Well, to anything short of someone like Devastator, anyway. Slag and Grimlock posturing at each other is nothing new for their feral ways. They growl and bare teeth at each other until a small, unassuming voice is heard calling to them from somewhere nearby.
Beryllium baloney!
Grimlock turns his attention from Slag to whatever the bothersome source of this voice is. He challenges at the open air, daring whomever to come forth.
Who say that?
The same orange bot seen earlier who followed Cup and Hot Rod towards the Quintessa castle comes out from behind a nearby wall to reveal himself to the Dinobots, hopping casually down off his perch to climb all the way up Sludge's tail, across his back, and up onto his head. Sludge either doesn't notice or doesn't mind the small orange bot taking a casual seat right between his eyes. This little guy repeats his rhyme with a grin and a flare, to let them know for sure he's the one who'd been calling to them, and that he comes in peace.
Friend find, look behind. You go wrong way, you fool, I say.
Being now at eye level with Grimlock, he looks at Grimlock and tells him this to his face, albeit in a playful manner. Grimlock is taken aback by the utter audacity of this feeble boy who would dare challenge the king of beasts, the champion of the sword, the bestest and the smartest of all the Dinobots. That this child could even think to call him a fool. This young and mischievous jester takes delight in Grimlock's perturbed reaction, yet decides maybe these bigger, meaner bots shouldn't be communicated with the same way he'd witnessed Cup and Hot Rod banter with each other. So he changes his angle to tell Grimlock that he's catching on to what he's trying to tell him. Simply that he's going the wrong way, foolishly, but now that he knows that he's going the wrong way, he is in fact no longer a fool.
Me Grimlock fool?
Picture you not, no fool you not.
Unfortunately for him, Grimlock is easily perturbed and not one to bottle up his feelings of annoyance.
Me Grimlock no like you.
Shocked, yet not one to back down easily, the orange bot counters with a makeshift slingshot and some kind of tepid explosive device, which he wrist rockets smack dab in the middle of Grimlock's face, causing him to rear his head back and cry out, clutching his nose. Swoop seems both amazed and aghast at the brazen attack on Grimlock, wondering how he'll ultimately react.
Ow! Why boy hit my nose?
The fact that he didn't outright bite this boy in half after this is indication enough to the small orange bot that he has now earned the respect of these big bad Autobots. And being an Autobot himself, as we see with his red symbolic auto brand, the orange bot then introduces himself, arms folded with authority, yet a friendly smile still on his face. He announces their new alliance to his gigantic and fierce new companions.
Really say find friends today.
He starts moving the correct way down the highway, and the Dinobots see in the distance the grand, important-looking citadel at the far end of it, peaked with its silvery, spiraled crown. Good enough for Grimlock, and that means good enough for the rest of them to follow.
Me Grimlock say we on our way.
The fact that Grimlock, with that sentence, copies Wheelie's cadence in rhyming sentences is a great way to show his acceptance of this strange young bot, and his gratitude for helping the Dinobots find the others. It's only a matter of time before they reach the Citadel and get their friends back. And if they're lucky, find a way off this planet and head back to Cybertron so they can get a crack at fighting whatever this big, mean monster planet is that threatens them all. Few things could stir the heart of Grimlock the way a challenge like that can. Some quick thoughts on Wheelie. Wheelie, for some reason, is thought to be one of the most annoying Transformers that ever came to be. Ever since I was a kid, I never understood this. I mean, look, I get that he has that rhyming tick, but it's at least as clever and rarely used as Blur's fast-talking, Powerglide's nasally bravado, or whatever Warpath's bing-zang automatopoeia habit is. Not to mention some upcoming characters who talk TV.
You check in, but you don't check out.
Some might say his toy sucked. I mean, his robot mode is weird, but his car mode rocks as much as any new 86 cast member's toy. Besides, how many other characters had toys where one mode was amazing and the other was, well, it was there, wasn't it? His design in the show was perfectly in line with all the Floro Dairy stuff at the time. In most episodes he was featured in, he was as much a companion to Daniel as Bumblebee was to Spike in the preceding seasons. For a good example, check out the episode Surprise Party from Season 3. I remember loving that episode as a kid, thinking of hanging out with a Transformer my size that turned into a cool futuristic car I could ride in. But let's look at Wheelie objectively. He comes out of nowhere in this movie in the middle of the second act, after we've already been introduced to a slew of new characters earlier, some of who've just crashed into an unfamiliar world for a tangent side quest away from the main plot, where confusion, terror, and some heavy issues of fascism, perversions of justice, and some backwards legal procedures nearly derail the film. But wait, I said nearly. There is a purpose to all this, the entire Quintessa adventure, and a purpose for Wheelie. I mean, it could be said that he was part of the new product line that had to be pushed out, and sure, that's part of it. But the same could be said for any of these characters. Within the context of its own narrative, though, all of these characters play roles. Hot Rod is the brash young warrior on a quest for personal growth and proving himself as he finds his place in the world. Cup is the wise old soldier, self-appointed to guide the younger generation to its destiny. And Grimlock is the barbarian warrior who relishes and respects strength above all else. Springer is the dashing rogue, more experienced than the central hero, but not enough to take the larger leadership role.
I got better things to do tonight than die.
And RC is the girl. Okay, that's not fair. But she does take the role as the nurturer, caretaker, the team's heart and compassion, as well as being one of the more sensible and mature members of the younger generation of Autobots included in this story. So, what part does Wheelie have to play in all this? Well, perhaps the closest analogy would be the sprite, or the magical woodland creature that our heroes encounter on their quest when they're lost. Usually the sprite is manifested by a playful nature, a small stature, and a sense of wisdom beyond their usually impish physical appearance. They drop helpful hints to help the heroes along their way. This story about Transformers is far from Shakespeare, but there are all the ingredients of the hero's journey mixed into this animated tale from the 80s, enough to make Joseph Campbell proud, I'm sure. Besides fulfilling this traditional role, Wheelie proves invaluable as an asset to the Autobots many times. He's sent with Blur as a courier, with the all-important transformation cog for Metroplex soon after this movie takes place. Survives multiple encounters with the vicious Predacons. And he is always willing to offer up a helping hand and an enthusiastic demeanor, no matter the task. In IDW's published Transformers series, the first one, Wheelie joined Hot Rod on a few adventures, and even accompanied Optimus Prime for a time. Wheelie's reasons for being a small, lone Autobot on Quintessa are never discussed in this movie. It's obvious that he's no native, but has been stranded here, surviving this accursed world for who knows how long. Think Newt, the little girl from another beloved 1986 film, Aliens. To have lasted on his own on this world with no weapons, no muscle, nothing but his wit and skills surely must earn Wheelie some amount of respect from this fanbase. His assistance to Hot Rod, Cup, and the Dinobots is a turning point in the whole story, and without his help they'd all be stranded indefinitely or dead. And not to spoil the whole ending, but so would all of Cybertron in that case. Wheelie's part to play in this story is pivotal, playing a more important part than even Blur or Perceptor, really. I think one of the marks against Wheelie is his portrayal in the Japanese Headmasters series, where he plays the foil to Daniel, but mostly just comes off as a big jerk and an annoying bully in that series.
All right, the Autobots won again!
I've had enough. It's just a game anyway. Why do I have to play Decepticons all the time?
But Headmasters has more than its share of misportrayed characterizations. As we move forward from this part of the movie, we'll see a few more cool moments with Wheelie, but in my opinion, he's always been deserving of a little more credit than he's gotten these last few decades. But that's just me.